That's right. And BaptistHealth.net/ortho is the official sports medicine provider for the Miami Heat, Miami Dolphins, Florida Panthers, InterMiamiCF, FIU, FAU, Orange Bowl, Miami-Dade County Public Schools, Miami Open Tennis, and Miami Marathon. And the man, the myth, the legend that is Safid Deen is joining us. Follow him on Twitter at Safid_Deen. Good morning, sir. How are you doing?
Good morning, Big O. It's a great day to be 2-0, right?
Yeah,
Great day to be 2-0 in the AFC.
yeah.
Uh, what an incredible start to the season for the Miami Dolphins, Big O. Um, you win on the West Coast against the Chargers. You win in the Northeast Coast against the Patriots, 2-0, 2-0 in the AFC. You got two big games coming up here, and things are looking up, man. Things are
You got
looking up in a really big way.
you got a shot to be 5-1, 6-0
6-0.
when you take on the Eagles. Okay, I think, and watching the Bills, and I know they dismantled the Raiders. The Raiders are bad, but Miami can easily compete with the Bills. They did last year. They can beat the Bills. Oh, and that's a good thing about this stretch. And I was looking at it yesterday. You got Denver, then you're at the Bills, the Giants, and Carolina. These are all winnable games leading up to Week 7 at Philadelphia. So that kind of sets you up, And it's funny, Safid, because we have these Dolphin fans sometimes that they act like they've been winning forever, right? And some guy goes to me, well, the Dolphins won, but it should have been that close. 7-point win should have been more. And I turned to him, I said, well, the Eagles only beat them by 5, and I thought they were in the Super Bowl last year. So
Mhm.
relax, bro. You know, Belichick is smart. He can't figure out the offensive stuff without Brady. That's fine, but defensively, he's always going to be a pain in the butt.
Yeah, definitely, Big O. Going into this game, if you're a real Dolphins fan, you know, if you listen to Big O's show, if you listen to these segments that we're on, I told you guys it was going to be a low-scoring affair. It was not going to be Week 1 against the Chargers. You're going up against the greatest defensive coach of all time, and the greatest coach of all time. Excuse me. So Mike McDaniel had a great game plan going into that game. The Dolphins already saw what they were doing. Bill Belichick said, "You're not going to throw it 460 yards to a. We're putting 3 safeties deep on you." And the Dolphins saw that. Mike McDaniel saw that, and Mike McDaniel got his juices flowing. He said, "It's time to run." Mike McDaniel is a run-first coach. He's a running game coordinator, essentially, running back coach. When you're a head coach, you always kind of defer to what you always know. And what a great thing to be able to defer to for the Dolphins, right? The O line looks really good. Even if you have some deficiencies on the O line, Mike McDaniel has a scheme to figure all that out. Nothing you can't do past a good scheme, Big O. There's about knowing what the play is, and there's also execution. And Dolphins executed some really, really timely plays, mainly that Mostert touchdown, the 43-yarder that gave them the 24 points that they needed to win. And everybody's doing really well, man. Smythe and Ingold are blocking really well. Robert Hunt moving off that double, the double team, going to get that one person for that one play in particular. But
Mhm.
Mike McDaniel's got this all drummed up, man. This is one other play too that really stuck out to me. Big O was that touchdown to Tyreek Hill. It was a quick little, 1-yard pass to him, but they were doing that after a timeout there was a stoppage in play, right? So for the Dolphins to have all their timing and their and cohesion set for that moment, that as soon as the referee moved away from the ball, they were going to snap it and throw it to Tyreek and just go head over to the sideline because they know they scored. I mean, just big moments for the Dolphins here. This is year 2 of a new coaching era, and they look like they're prime and crisp. They look in like a lot better shape than a majority of the teams in the NFL. Just through 2 weeks alone, man.
Well, I got to tell you, man, to see where they're at now, and you start looking around the league and the landscape, they can hang pretty much with anybody right now. It's just a matter of staying healthy, and the performance of the offensive line, the play design, the intelligence of Tua to run all of this. Because sometimes I think people take for granted, and they think, well, you can plug any quarterback in there and he's going to do the same thing. And that's a lie, my brother. That's an absolute lie because you have to be able to read and react and decipher very quickly and be on target and have the accuracy and the timing. And I don't think people I think there's a lot of people that are taking for granted everything that's going on, the coaching, the play design, and Tua being the conductor of all of this.
That's a perfect way to say it. He really is a conductor. He's a game manager. He's like a point guard out there, honestly. Um, there's organization which Mike McDaniel and Chris Greer have provided. There's a cohesiveness that all the players kind of have from playing with each other for so long. Maybe it's 2 years in a row. Maybe it's even longer for a lot of guys, especially on that defense. But Tua is out there being a point guard out there, not a point guard, a point guard out there. The way he's dishing out the football, the way he's orchestrating the guys at the line, the way he's getting the plays in. Just that one play to Tyreek that I mentioned too. You have everybody kind of lined up and in the position that they're in. Everybody knows what's going on. I mean, this is a team that really did their work in OTAs, really did their work in training camp to really solidify what happened from last year and to improve on it on this year. It's so much different when you're going in year two of a same system that you kind of already know a little bit more, and things just become so much easier, Big O.
Yeah.
We spoke a little bit about those injuries. Dolphins 2-0, no Tehran, no Jalen Ramsey. Jalen Phillips was out with a back injury. And now you have Jalen Waddle in concussion protocol, and I'm keeping that kid out as much as he needs it because that was a really wicked hit he took to the back of his head. Maybe Phillips comes back with the back. We'll see. Phillips kind of always kind of had a back issue, I believe. But without Tehran and Jalen Ramsey, you're 2-0 already. You got a big 2 games coming up against the Broncos and against the Bills. I'm kind of happy one of those games against the Giants or the Panthers didn't really fall into this mix here. You kind of worry about maybe where the Dolphins' heads are at, but I think everybody's kind of in a good place right now. I think they all understand what the mission is, what the task at hand is, what they can accomplish. I mean, you're 5-0, 6-0. Who knows where you're at, come November, December. It's all about getting the little steps ahead that you can. And Big O, when I look at it from a national standpoint, I look at the Bengals 0-2. Sure, the Ravens are 2-0. Sure, the Chiefs are 1-1. The Bills are 1-1. But every little inch you can get in that AFC race is so big, so huge. It's Dolphins could host a home playoff game. It would be amazing. It would be amazing. It would
Oh, yeah.
be really great for their prospects when the postseason starts. And you're hopefully having Tehran and Jalen Ramsey back at that point in the season as well, too. Not to say that Tehran's going to be out even longer than he is, but things are looking up, Big O. You got to take it with a grain of salt and enjoy it. And really, the guys really do need to improve in the areas that they need to.
Safid, where I think Miami really benefits is last year. And what I mean by that is last year you were 8-3. Last year you had most of the guys you had on that team last year are here. They all experienced what happens at 8-3 when a ton of injuries happen to your quarterback, the secondary, offensive line, all kinds of stuff that kind of really dismantled your season. You know what I mean? The Dolphins weren't an average team. They weren't really a 9-8 team. They were a team that had a lot of bad luck last year. And that's what really derailed their season because if they were healthy from the get-go with Byron Jones and everything from the get-go, they might have had a completely different season. But the fact they went through all that trauma, I think is actually a good thing for this season because what you had just talked about, and if you remember, McDaniel talked about it on the podium where, things were going well for us last year and then, things bit us and reality bit us and all of a sudden injuries and all that kind of stuff. And, I'm kind of paraphrasing, but the way he made it sound was like, hey, we were on a high last year until we weren't anymore for a while. And I think that experience is going to give this team a little bit of an edge where complacency will not sit in that easily like maybe other teams who all of a sudden have success and they don't know how to deal with it. These guys are going to know, hey, man, last year things were great too. And then all hell broke loose. I think last year's experience will help. What do you think?
Yeah, man, and nothing like a nice slice of humble pie could help out with, right? The
Right.
guys, they went to California and laid 2 eggs over there against the Chargers against San Francisco after that 8-3 start. Everything was sweet, and then it wasn't. Then you try to go up to Buffalo and you play them really toe to toe, and you can't come out with the win in that game. And then you realize, all right, we're not as hot as we think we are. Nothing like a nice slice of humble pie to do the Dolphins well, Big O. And like I told you, one of the first times that we spoke, man, this team is 18-16 the last 2 years. You're winning as much as you're losing, or excuse me, you're losing as much as you're winning. That's kind of the way you should look at it, right? And you can put a
Well,
bunch of factors into
Tua.
that. I knew you were going there. I know you were going there. Oh
Yeah.
no, no, Tua. Yeah, Tua lost some games too, Big O. There were some
Yeah.
games Tua lost too.
He's
I
10 and
know there's some
4.
injuries and stuff.
He's
Yeah,
10,
but
he's 10 and 4 in games that he started and
mhm.
finished in the last 2 years. Okay? 10
this
and
is a
4.
big this is a big opportunity this season, Big O. We can look down the line all we want and see 5-0, 6-0, maybe 10-1. Who knows? What the schedule kind of looks out at. They're going to be in good shape when they go play the Chiefs. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But they're going to have some tests this year, man. The Bills, the Broncos are a big test. Don't sleep on the Broncos. I know it's kind of easy to because they didn't really look too great in week 1. Week 2, they looked a little better, but they still couldn't come out with that comeback against Washington last week. Washington's playing really well. You got to give them credit where it's due. This Broncos game is going to be a tough game. I want the Dolphins to kind of have their emotions kind of in check because this is the home opener. It's a big game. You played your first 2 games on the road. Everybody's dying to play at home. I know the fans are going to be crazy for this game on Sunday. That's going to be a packed stadium. Obviously the Broncos, Russell Wilson, Sean Payton, they have a new rebuild they're working through right now. Thankfully, the Dolphins are in year 2 and not year 1 of their, what's going on there. But I like the Dolphins in this game. They just got to put it all together. And then, hey, look, week 4, you're not looking at a dud at like the Giants or the Panthers. You got a team you want to play in Buffalo, and you got a chance to show Buffalo early what you're all about. It's easy to look ahead. It's easy to kind of, play out the schedule and this and that. But Dolphins got 4 guys they got to worry about. It's Teron, it's Jalen Ramsey, it's Jalen Phillips and it's Jalen Waddle. And once those guys kind of, turn the corner in their recoveries, all respectively as well, and nobody else does get hurt, everybody stays healthy, this team could really turn a corner, Big O.
So I don't remember where you stood on this, but I know I was always on the Tua side on this. But watching that game last night, and I tweeted out this morning a picture of Deshaun Watson and said, the Miami Dolphins could have ended up with this turd. And it's what he is. He's a turd. Anyway, and I'm being kind by calling him a turd, by the way. It's hindsight now, obviously, is 2020, but it's interesting how you could have ended up with that, and Tua could have been somewhere else, and who knows, maybe he's balling for somebody else, and you're frustrated with Watson. The mistakes that could have happened for the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, I think the great Barry Jackson had an amazing tweet. Sticking with Tua has really paid off for the Dolphins after when you think about flirting with Brady and Sean Payton and Deshaun Watson, all 3 of those guys in the last 2-3 years or whatever. The Dolphins kind of played themselves into a really good situation with Tua just by sticking with him. And I don't think they stuck with him by default. I think it was a decision as well because you could have made a decision to go somewhere else. Where did I stand on the Deshaun Watson thing? I understood all the appeal, sure. I also understood that it's hard to sell to your fan base. One, also understood that this guy was going to have a significant layoff to try to come back from. And obviously, he looks really bad right now, man. Deshaun Watson had like probably 2 plays in that game that were really good, and they were both like 20-yard passes to the outside. One to Amari Cooper, one to another receiver. It was the only good throws he could make. Every time Deshaun Watson tried to launch something even past 25, there was nowhere in sight of a receiver. He has just bad accuracy down the field. He was pressured a lot against the Steelers, and everybody will be because TJ Watt is back there. 6 sacks for the Steelers last night. But Deshaun just had some bad decision making as well. There were some times where he did escape pressure, but his eyes are not downfield at all. So that's just a lot of things that Deshaun Watson is really behind the 8 ball with all the games that he did not play because of his suspension and whatever that was with Houston sitting out that season. And when you look at Tua's been on the field all that time outside of the concussions, and Tua has a coach that believes in him and has an offense that is catered to him, which is something that didn't happen when Brian Flores was here. The offense was complete trash the first 2 years, and Ryan Fitzpatrick made the most of everything, Tua's first season. There's just so much better cohesion here. Chris Greer and the Dolphins leadership, they hired Mike McDaniel. They hired an offensive coach because you need that for a young quarterback. And you can't go defensive unless you have a great offensive coordinator. And there's not that many offensive coordinators that are that great that are not in head coaching positions in the league. They really struggle with Mike McDaniel here. They really struggle with sticking with Tua. They really struggle with all the draft picks that they have and all the cohesion that they have on defense. And some of these offensive linemen might just work out in their favor because of the scheme that they're in. So looks like a win-win-win all aboard when the Dolphins were trying to do some real, shady stuff or things behind everybody's kind of back to try to make things happen through the windows or the channels that be. But the Dolphins might have came out on top on all of this, Big O, when we look back on everything.
Oh, for sure. There's no doubt. Thank the Lord that Flo and the owner didn't get their ways because that's really because from what I know, the front office didn't want to give up on Tua. That was more about the coach that had a chubby for Watson and the owner, the two owners who obviously one of them was Bruce Beal and trying to get Brady here. I got something I got to bring up because I think I think we're getting a little lazy on this label of the greatest coach of all time with Belichick. And let me explain. Let me explain. Until Belichick has significant success with another quarterback, I don't think he can be labeled the greatest coach of all time. Let me explain. Joe Gibbs won 3 Super Bowls with 3 different quarterbacks, neither one of them a Hall of Famer. Don Shula went to Super Bowls with 3 different quarterbacks, one in Bob Greasy, the other one in Dan Marino, and then the other in Wood Strock, actually, and David Woodley and Don Strock. And so he proved greatness with different teams. And we have lazily given Belichick the greatest label. He is the greatest defensive coordinator, defensive mind ever. I will give him that because I've watched it with the Giants and the Patriots and still with the Patriots. But until you figure out offensively, until you can get another quarterback, until you can get to big time success offensively, I can't put you with Joe Gibbs and Don Shula, actually. I can't. I really can't because you got lucky with one guy, and the one guy was your ultimate eraser, and he's proven that since he left that you can't even make it to the playoffs without him, where Don Shula got to the Super Bowl with 2 backup quarterbacks playing one role. You know what I mean? Getting to the Super Bowl with Marino is not as impressive as getting to the Super Bowl with Woodstock. You know what I'm saying? So, it shows me your flexibility as a coach that you're able to turn it over and then with another era of players get to that. Doesn't Belichick have to have that kind of success before we really give him the label of greatest of all time?
No, Big O. No, he doesn't.
Okay.
The damage is already done.
That's fine.
He's already won 6 Super Bowls. He's been to 9 of them.
I'm more impressed by Joe Gibbs, 3 championships with 3 different
Sure.
quarterbacks. None of them Hall of Famers, my brother.
Be more impressed. Bill Belichick has double that.
Yeah, but he did it with his system. He was able to plug the next quarterback in and win. Whereas that's what Belichick thinks he has.
Yeah.
He thought he had a system. And bro, he brought in Matt Patricia. I mean, Joe Gibbs would and Don Shula would never have coaches like that. I don't know. I just think it's almost like he got lucky that he even drafted Brady.
Yeah, he did.
Okay. By the way, which
he did. He got lucky. This is the greatest luck story in the history of professional sports.
And Chris
Tom,
Greer's dad, by the way, had a hand in Brady.
yeah, I wish Chris Greer had Brady, and I'm sure the Dolphins did too. Big O, the winning is already done. The winning is already done. The window is already closed. It's what you do
I
in that window. I don't
yeah,
care. I don't care what Bill Belichick does the rest of his career. Best coach of all time. You
okay.
found the quarterback. You found the quarterback, and you won with him. There's nothing more to it past that, Big O. Nothing more to it past that.
Uh,
Look at
well,
and you look when you look at all like great championships and dynasties and things like that. Like Phil Jackson was the only one to really kind of be like, all right, I'll go. You know, from Kobe, I'll go from MJ and Scottie Pippen to Kobe and Shaq. Right?
right.
Maybe you can say that's a coach that created two different dynasties. Sure, great, but you don't do it without the great players.
Well,
Everybody knows that.
he didn't
Everybody knows that. You
he
don't
didn't
win without great players.
he didn't create a damn thing. He coached it. He didn't
He
create
coached.
any of it. Yeah, he coached.
Oh,
He
all right.
didn't create it. You know what I mean? Pat,
Tomato. I
no,
guess.
no, 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 no. Pat Riley.
Yes, it's
No,
all
no, 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 no,
semantics.
no, no, no. Pat Riley created and coached the championship. Phil Jackson never created anything. He coached it only. That's it.
You ask Pat Riley, you ask all those guys that win titles. It don't matter how the hell you do it, you go and win it.
Okay, no,
Don't
but
matter no
you said
style points or
created.
how the
I get it, but
yeah.
you can't. If you're not in charge of the personnel, you did not create it. Like it's like Bill Parcells. Bill Parcells won his titles with the
Mhm.
Giants, but that's because George Young created those teams. He never won a championship by also creating his own team. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? That's where that I'm just saying those are the adjectives we cannot add to his title. Okay, it's just he's not the creator. He's not the guy that did all the drafting. Others did the drafting for the Lakers and for the
Excuse me.
Bulls, and he did a magnificent job as a coach. You know what I mean? That's
Look,
why for me the Joe Gibbs accomplishment is is the most impressive accomplishment in all of coaching in pro football. I don't think there's anything more impressive than Joe Gibbs' 3 Super Bowls with 3 different quarterbacks and none of them Hall of Famers. That's sick, bro.
hey, yeah, to each their own, Big O. To each their own. But I don't think
Seriously.
yeah, you're not right about this Belichick take right here.
Okay.
I would say, look, and look, like let's take the show for example. You got somebody sitting right next to you, helping you out. Shout out to Sean, right?
Right.
But like, he's got a hand in helping you with the show, just like you got a hand in helping with the show too,
Of course.
right? Just like I got a hand in helping with this segment right now.
Damn right.
Everybody, it's hard to define all the roles, right? And like what you did or what you did for all all three of us made a great segment just now, you know.
Mhm.
And like to define the roles is kind of maybe you're getting into the grind of or into the minutia of things. Parcells had a hand in all the decision making, just like Bill Belichick had a hand in all the decision making, just like Mike McDaniel and Chris Greer are like, all right, let's go get Tyreek, let's go get Jalen Ramsey. It's not just one person. Just like Brian Flores wanted to go get Deshaun Watson. It's kind of all things. Everybody kind of has a hand in the cookie jar, and maybe one person gets more credit than the other. When things kind of come to fruition, but there's always kind of a hand in everything, man. You kind of take, no one person gets all the blame or the credit. It's kind of shared all around. And look, Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback of all time.
I got no
Uh,
problem with that.
okay,
None with that. I do have a problem us labeling Belichick the greatest of all time when,
maybe
you
it's a
have
Dolphins, maybe it's a
you have
Dolphins fan thing.
Pat Riley coached the Lakers to
Uh huh.
greatness. He didn't
Yeah.
build it. He didn't build it. He coached the Knicks to a finals. He didn't build it. He
Mm-hmm.
came to Miami. He's built everything and coached it to a championship at the same time. Pat showed me as a coach that he could go to 3 different franchises, take them to the finals, and win with 2 different franchises and build his own team, which is something that very few can do. So when you show me that you can go somewhere else, or you can show me that with a different era or a different group of players, you can go and accomplish the same things, then that shows me as a coach that you can actually get it done as time changes, as generations change, as the game changes, not all trapped in a bottle in one moment that you got on a roll and then you were able to, yeah, you had great success, but then what did you do after that? And that's my problem with him, that until I actually see you do it with somebody else, then you're not as great as we think you are, because you got lucky on one roll. You didn't have, see, Phil Jackson showed you that he could get great players in Chicago and do what damn, what was the name of the coach in Chicago, right, that he took over, the really nice guy that never wins, but he's a good coach. And then
Collins.
Collins, that's
Doug
it.
Collins. Yeah, Doug
And then it
Collins.
was Del Harris in the Lakers. He got the
Hmm.
same exact team that Del Harris had and won a title. So Phil showed you that he can manage the egos, that he can manage different rosters and win titles. You know what I mean? And that's what I haven't seen from Belichick yet, bro.
I mean, look. Tom Brady was the constant. Yes, sure. Look at all those players that came through New England, man. You got, Vince Wilfork, Mike Vrabel, Willie McGinnis, Rob Gronkowski, Edelman, Troy Brown, like James White. Shout out to James White, South Florida. Like all these other players, exactly what you're talking about, building and whatever, whatever, whatever. He did that with all these players. You know how many chess pieces it takes to win a Super Bowl? Belichick's figured it out more than anybody.
They don't win it without 12, bro.
Of
None
course
of
they
them.
don't. They
Now,
don't.
what?
They don't win
Now,
with all the other ones
what,
either.
brother? They can't win a playoff game without Tom Brady.
Yes, of course. That's so. Look, every great. Why do you think Miami hasn't won a national title? Since the five. Why do you think Florida stopped after 2008? Why do you think FSU had one run 10 years ago? After that, and fell flat after that. Look at Clemson. Look at every kind of big national title or big championship window for any team out there. Right? You go when you're supposed to go. You compete when you're supposed to compete. You win what you're supposed to win if you do, and then we all look back and say you should have won more or you didn't do enough. Right?
Mhm.
It's all championship windows. There's windows for success. So bring it back to the Dolphins right now. They're walking into their window right now.
Oh
We're
yeah.
gonna talk about this, and what they do or what they don't do for the future coming up. But to be able to sniff it, can't take away credit from that, man. This guy won 6 titles. The guy won 6 and Brady won 7, and he won one without Belichick to show his greatness, sure. But you can't discount Belichick on what he's did. Sure, Joe Gibbs did it with 3 different quarterbacks. All right, Bill Belichick did it with 17 different running backs and defensive ends and all these other players too. But you got 12. Listen, he found the quarterback. He found the quarterback. That's all that you need to have success in the NFL is finding the quarterback. And so many other coaches saw Tom Brady go in so many rounds and so many picks, did not make the pick, and he actually made it.
Yeah.
So he gets the credit.
Yeah. Well, in my eyes, he doesn't get that credit until
Sure. I
until
think
I
it's a
see
I
him.
think it's a personal Dolphins thing, Big O. You just got it out for
Oh,
Belichick.
I've made a great case for it. See, the difference is between you and me is you're not impressed with Joe Gibbs. I'm way more impressed with Joe Gibbs than I was Belichick. Now, I lived it. You didn't. So there's probably a difference there also between us, because to you it's just a stat in a book and maybe you could go find a highlight. I lived it. I watched the man. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I'm impressed when you're able to do something like that. I'm impressed more with Pat Riley than I am Phil Jackson. I've said that. Why? Because he built his own teams and he continues to do it to this day. You know what I mean? So as a coach, you got to give Phil the thing, but as a overall general manager and coach, Pat Riley's the god, bro. Pat Riley's, he's amazing. He's still doing it to this day, that he's still building teams. That's genius, bro. That you're
Mm-hmm.
still you have changed with decades. You know what I mean? Madonna did it for a while, and then she finally ran out of gas. She 80s, 90s, 2000s, she was still having
Sure.
hits. She was
Sure.
changing with the times, and then, eventually she gets a little too old. But
Mm-hmm.
you know what I'm saying? So that to me, I am impressed with the people that are able to change and adjust, and along the way, they're able to continue to have success, in the same genre, sport, whatever it is that they do in life.
Yeah, Big O. I'm sorry, I'm a young whippersnapper right now. If I wasn't watching the live stream of your show, the next half an hour or so, I'd be watching Joe Gibbs' Super Bowl highlights to learn how it was really done. You know,
I'm just saying, it's just something. If you live it, you
I
you
agree.
you have a different level of respect for it. That's all.
Definitely. I definitely agree with that.
You
Time
know
and
what I mean?
place and everything.
Yeah, and you'll feel the same way when you're talking to somebody half your age, and they didn't see this person or that person. They just see a highlight. It's different, and that's why I think Joe Gibbs kind of gets caught up, and Shula too, bro. Shula, the thing with Shula was he had to win one of those with either Marino or Woodstock. If he would have won one of those, it would have really helped his cause. Like some of these others that have been able to, switch over, like Riley and Phil Jackson and stuff like that. They're
Yeah.
able to do that. So it's crazy shit. All right, what do you got going on? So folks can check you out at USA Today.
Definitely. It's a football podcast. Episode 3 is dropping later this afternoon. We're going to recap the crazy week 2 that happened. Look ahead as well. I'm going to be posting about the Dolphins with my host, Tyler Dragon, who's not a big Tua fan, big Chargers fan. So we're definitely going to lay into him a little bit more about Justin Herbert's horrible start this season. But yeah, Big O, excited for what's coming up
About the
ahead.
3 and out on overtime. Ask
Oh
him
my
about that
God,
3 and out.
three incomplete passes from that guy.
Yeah.
We'll be checking out to see if Messi's going to play tomorrow night against Toronto, I believe, right?
Yes, Toronto.
Crazy stretch they got coming up. 6 games in like 18 days. This is like Messi's probably like, I didn't sign up for all this.
Yeah. All about the US Open Cup, bro. That's
Yeah,
it.
for sure. They're gonna win a final, and Messi's gonna play a little bit. And with these home games coming up, I expect them to get some rest at home and maybe play some other games on the road. But we'll see, man. Still an exciting time to be in Miami and be a sports fan down here. And it's always a pleasure talking to you, Big O, to talk about all of it.
You're the best. Thank you, my brother. Follow him on Twitter at Safid_Deen. Safid, as always, thank you, my man. We will talk later on the week.
See you Thursday.
You got it. There you go. The great Safid Deen.
This is the Big O Show.